So not that big.
Well, it's 4 o'clock and we do have a forum. Jesse, welcome. So I believe we can go ahead and get started. And I think that we'll have Nate go first to explain any legalities that we might incur.
Really making me sound real important here. Okay, so some of this was covered in the email that was called for this. What we did under the bylaws was set up an additional meeting or special meeting, as it's called sometimes. And that can occur with the majority of the board. We tried to keep that restricted, just the question of whether to have the meeting. And the meeting needs to be limited to the issue of golf membership fees as listed on the agenda. And I think more specifically, we limited to the issue of the decision last time of imposing restrictions or different limitations or requirements for senior memberships on weekends. Just to kind of give an update on that, and this was referenced in the email a little bit as well. A big reason for having this board is to set up new fee structures. That's not something we've done in a long time. Since the last meeting, we've kind of been figuring out the best way to do that. The issue is that we have membership agreements now that are an agreement with the city for a period of time. So we have to account for that. Basically, we can't necessarily say members who have signed an agreement like a month ago for 1 year can automatically have to, do these new restrictions, new requirements when they sign a contract with us otherwise. So we've been kind of figuring out the administrative process, which is not something that we've done for a long time. Again, that's what this board is for. So we have not implemented anything yet as part of just kind of our administrative process. And then also with knowledge of this meeting, we figured we'd kind of wait to see as well to determine what the outcome is. So the idea here is just to limit the special meeting to the issue presented of golf membership fees, specifically the issue decided last time of imposing weekend restrictions, new weekend restrictions on senior memberships. The way we would do that as well, there was a motion last time, it was decided upon. We're not amending that motion though, just kind of as a technical issue for someone if they happen to want to start the discussion with the motion this meeting. It doesn't have to be any kind of motion to amend. You could say motion to reinstitute what we had before, kind of frame it like that if you would want. But we don't need to necessarily amend what we did last time. We would just be changing it just like we changed it previously. So it's a new action by the board, basically, if something is going to be different than the prior meeting. If you have any other questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them as we go, but I think otherwise kind of up to the board to decide the issue presented for this meeting.
Okay, I guess I'll start off just by saying that I was the one that requested the special meeting, and I apologize for taking up anybody's time more than what we need to. But as I thought about it more and more when I got home, something just didn't sit right with me about only affecting the seniors. Something just, I don't know, morally or ethically or whatever, it just didn't seem right. And I thought if there was something that we could do that would be across the board, affect everybody equally, that might be a better option. I had an option to maybe present today, but I think someone else might have a better option. So I would pass it back to Jesse to.
I would say that if I could speak, I would say that I'm on the same page as Randy. I walked out of there and in the evening time, I really thought about it. My job for being on the board was to represent golf and fellow golfers. And I feel like we didn't do that. And I feel like we rushed it. And if it makes us look bad as the board is making a decision, I say this all the time, there's 3 parts to an apology. Most people forget about the last one. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And what can I do to make it right? That's where I feel trying to make something right, that we're not biased.
Randy, thank you for that. I do agree. I think last time, the last meeting was, the vote was a little bit rushed. We tossed out some ideas. There were new ideas that were presented at that meeting, and we needed time to kind of think through them. And I'm glad to be here to kind of do this. So meeting with staff, talking through this for the past couple of weeks, we've come up with a plan that we think would be a much better fit for what we're trying to accomplish. So I'll just kind of get into that and I'll kind of explain the reason why. Okay, on the top of this page, our current membership structure, it's all right there. The adults are 116, couples, or I'm sorry, 106. The couples are 116, 10 for junior, 68 for young adult, and 58 for senior. What we did last time, as Randy said, the only ones that were affected were the seniors, and that's not, I'm like you, I didn't really feel good about that. So what we've come up with as a staff is a $12 increase across the board. Everyone it's a $12 increase, so that it's not a huge increase, but it goes to 118 for adults, 134 for couples. The couples are the only exception. They would be a $18 increase. There's two people involved in that membership. So it's a $12 increase for the first person, a $6 increase for the second person. The juniors, we don't want to touch them. I want juniors at our courses, so I don't want to raise the rates on them. Young adult would go to 80, 68. Seniors would go to 70, 36. This is a $12 increase across the board. It does get an increase if we stay at the same quantity of members that we have now. It's an increase of $240,000 in revenue for the year through memberships. I'll go to the next slide. The equipment replacement fund, that's the once per year charge that we that goes straight into the purchase of new equipment. Right now it's $37 for each member. I put in here, green fee players pay $1 for every round that they play. So we have members that play 150 rounds and they're only playing $37. So the recommendation from staff on that is to raise that to $50 annually. That's a one-time fee in October. Considerations when looking at this option over some of the other options and the one that we talked about last meeting, it does not single out a certain membership type. It's $12 for every membership and 18 for the couples. So it affects everyone the same. It is the increase. We know that we need to increase revenue. There are a lot of cost increases across the industry. There's a lot of projects, a lot of things that need to be done. It does decrease the gap from the adult to seniors. It was at a 45% discount for seniors. There's a lot of people that have a big problem with that. We discussed that's a huge discount where the area courses, the average was like less than 20%. We were at 45. So doing this by a dollar amount instead of a percentage decreases that gap a little bit. They're still getting a 40% discount for seniors, which is substantial. And again, but it's still a $12 increase, just like everyone else. It's not such a drastic hit to any type of member. The seniors, the way we had it before, for them to keep the same 7-day membership they had was going to be a pretty substantial increase for them. This is $12, not nearly as drastic, and it's even across the board. To me, this part's important to me. The other factors to consider, Mr. Ramos made a point last meeting that the conditions of the courses, the quality of the product that we offer needs to increase as we're asking for more money. Once you see improvements and you see these things happening, then everyone knows the money is going back into the program. I've been here for roughly 9 months. That's 9 months is a long time. Right now, it's not that long of a time because everything takes 9 months or a year to come in when you order. We've had equipment on order for 7, 8 months. Carts take anywhere from 6 to 18 months right now to come in. In the winter, as far as the course condition, not a lot we can do to improve the grass conditions when it's dormant. So we have big plans to make improvements, but we need, and we're getting to that point finally with the weather where the grass is growing. We can start doing these things and show these improvements. The clubhouse upgrades, we're working our way through those. We got one of them almost done. The next one's getting ready to start. So all these things are getting ready to start happening. And I think once the golfers see that the money is being reinvested into the courses, into the golf facilities, and they can, I mean, I can sit up here and say something all day long, but I want them to see that we are trying so hard to improve the conditions of the courses and the facilities. Then, you know, I'm a lot more comfortable, and I think everyone else would be more comfortable paying a bigger fee when they see that there's actual improvements being that are happening. And again, just increase the overall quality of our product. I think that is the key with the money that we're trying to make, the revenue that we're trying to increase. It is all going to increase the products that we have. We have major expenses that are coming up. The other thing, I missed this point. It gives us time to put together a 3 to 5 year plan of all the equipment needs that we have, the projects, the infrastructure, all the expected cost of all these things. And golf is such a seasonal industry that really, until you're somewhere for a full year and you've seen all the things that happen in each season, it's hard to really put together exactly what your needs are, because as we started off this spring, we had major problems with our pump houses and different things. And we figured that out once we start the season. And that those type of things, until you hit that part of the season, you don't really know. This gives us time for me to be here for a full year, see all the things that need to happen, put that plan together a lot more, be a lot more specific and detailed in that plan, instead of just, I think we need this, probably going to need that. I can be a lot more specific with that plan, and then we would have an actual number of what we're looking for. And we can be more in the future when we're looking at fees and digging back into this topic, we will have more specific numbers to look at. And I think that's very, very important, instead of just throwing numbers out. So staff recommendation and for your discussion would be to apply a $12 increase to all monthly individual memberships, with the $18 monthly increase to couples. Again, that would be $12 for the first person of that membership, $6 for the second, and then to increase the annual equipment replacement charge from $37 to $50. I think that makes that a little bit more equitable. You look at green fee players versus members. The green fee players are paying $1 per round. Right now, members are not, with the number of rounds they play each year. So I'll answer questions. I think doesn't matter. Yeah, Marcia.
Question about each bullet.
Okay.
How did you, first of all, have you done the math, the increase from 37 to 50? What's the total on that if our memberships stay roughly the same?
I want to say it was like, can somebody do that real quick? I'm on here. I don't want to give a wrong number.
1,700 times $30,000.
Yeah, it's around, I was thinking that's roughly $30,000. Around 17, close to 1,700 members times 13.
And the other question I had on the other bullet was, how did you come up with $12? I mean, is that number tied to something?
No, we had talked about the increase of trying to hit around that $250,000 to $300,000 per year, and that puts us at that amount. And it also, I mean, looking at how that came out, I feel like we all talked about it. We feel like that's a pretty fair increase. It's not a huge. We're not trying to jump someone up from $58 to $100. So it's a small increase, but it's across the board, and it gives us a decent amount of revenue that we can start making these improvements.
I'm good, thanks.
Randy?
And then would that also have a caveat that for the next year, that 2% annual increase not be in play for at least the first year probably, or?
I would be perfect with that. I would be good in putting that in the motion. Yes.
Just to clarify one thing real quick too. Advice for this proposal would be that we would not decide whether to implement the $12 increase at this meeting because of the limits on the special meeting. But what we can do is use this staff proposal to consider whether that would be a more effective approach to take at our next or subsequent meetings. As we consider whether to keep or remove the senior membership restrictions that were decided at the last meeting. Does that make sense to everybody? Not deciding on this proposal exactly, but it helps inform our decision, which is our topic of conversation today, which are the senior membership restrictions.
Exactly. And I think coming out of that last meeting, we definitely need to have the discussion and not take a couple of weeks to really think of all the ins and outs and then come back and vote.
Jesse, on that $13, when I looked at that, we had about 95,000 rounds of regular play. And by going up $13, we'd balance that out, where that would be pretty equitable between the season pass holders and the daily fee players. They'd be both paying about the same amount. Which is-
Total. The
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
So this proposal versus the one we talked about last month, what's the difference in the amount of money that revenue that we would generate?
It's hard to, we don't know how many members with the last proposal, we don't know how many members would switch to a full 7-day membership. So if no one changed and every senior stayed at the 5-day membership that was proposed, there would be no increase in membership. It would just open up weekend tee times. Some of those senior players would probably convert to a full membership, but it's putting a hard number to that is hard to do. I mean, we would see an increase either through open green fee tee times or from the seniors that convert to the full member. With this one, we never know how many members we're going to add or going to drop out, but at least we can put actual numbers to it.
My
Jesse.
concern, I like anything that is across the board to everybody. I think there's some pain to be felt. Everybody will feel a little bit of pain if. Makes any sense?
Mr. Ramos?
Yeah, to clarify, I think Michael Jordan said 13, but we're talking about 12, correct?
I think he was talking about the equipment replacement fund. It would
Okay,
go from
okay.
3750.
Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure. That's it. Thanks.
Any other questions before I step down and let you guys discuss?
Based on what we're speaking of here, then the extra hours on the weekends would then be negated, that would go back to as it was. And
Right. If with this plan that we are proposing, that all memberships would be 7-day memberships, we would get away from that 7-day idea.
We kind of came up with that $12 last meeting. Mr. Houtman told us that 2 years back, council actually voted and agreed on 15%. We want to stay under it. So it's less than 15%.
I believe those numbers were actually discussed at the last meeting, so along with several other various potential plans. So, all right, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Anything else from the floor? Comments?
Can you send that to us, Jesse? Just that slide there.
Last question. How is the equipment premium administered? Is it $1 per round or is that just part of your membership?
It's an additional charge to the membership that once a year there, if the proposal goes through, there would be a $50 charge on each season pass, no matter what category it was in.
Okay.
Which would then equate to, assuming you still had 95,000 regular rounds, the revenue pool would be about the same out of both categories.
I see.
And to someone asked what the increase would be with that equipment replacement fund, Darius did that math. If with the amount of members that we have right now, it would be just over 21,000. So. Sorry, 20,644 as it is right now, because the juniors do not pay that. I forgot. Yeah.
It's going to be just a little short. All right. Any other discussion? Any other plans that somebody may want to submit? I mean, this is the staff's recommendation, which is always exactly what we should listen to. There may be some things in the future, if possible. I know that the city has budget analysts that go through this and potentially maybe some input. One of those gentlemen, be persons, in order to maybe be able to tell us exactly what the city's negotiating for employees, which directly impacts us because we have to be able to finance that. So there's a lot of outside entities that enter into this, which may sway one person one way or the other. Can't answer that. Like I said, I believe that former board had actually went through, and I don't believe this as much as they had advised at the time.
They advised, they had done a 15% increase across the board. The problem with that $15 increase actually increases the gap between the seniors and the adult rate. 15% of 106 is a lot more than 50% of 58. So it actually increased that. This dollar amount actually decreases that a little bit. So
Any other questions?
What's timeline like now? Because I remember we wanted to try and get this going.
yeah,
Recent.
again, we're not going to vote tonight. So once we do that, we would need at least 30 days, I believe, notice.
Well, and kind of, just to get a little nerdy about it, I guess. So what we would do, it would kind of depend on the status of the agreement. New members are pretty easy to deal with. They would just sign up for the new agreement depending on what the board decides. The second group we have are folks, and just doing it second because it's easier to talk about. Folks are effectively on a month-to-month kind of membership. If you don't renew your membership, it kind of goes to that instead. So there's some different kind of notice issues, making sure that they know about any fee increases or membership changes. So we would give about 2 months, maybe, depending on what we could work out administratively to contact everybody, basically. The bigger issue are folks that have signed membership agreements that have anywhere from up to a year to a day, down to a day left. Those folks would be on those agreements until they have to renew and sign a new one. And that's effectively how it would go. But what we would do is send them notice that at the end of that agreement, you don't just switch to a month-to-month, so there's not that kind of pull basically at the end. And they have to renew, otherwise the agreement remains. So about a month to kind of get it going, but really it's over the year that the membership and changes would be in.
We could be the first part of June.
Yeah, and the next meeting, what is April 18th? So yeah, any significant changes. If we move forward though with the changes from the last meeting, just only focusing on the 5 versus 7 day distinction, then it would be about a month and a half, I guess, a couple months. I would say June, if we keep moving forward with that, depending on what you're.
We need to make a motion to hold off on moving forward with that until we decide what we want to do, or can we just do that at April 18th meeting?
Yeah, that's another alternative. So an option I provided at the beginning was to basically reconsider the decision. You can also move to delay implementation of that until we have full consideration of the proposal from staff at the April 18th.
I think that might be a good idea, just not to cause anybody more work in doing something that might not be implemented.
You choose to. If you
I think
choose
it'd be good to hang tight and think about everything and reevaluate everything at our next meeting.
I didn't quite catch that, Jesse. Was that as a motion?
No, he said it would be a good idea. I didn't think.
And actually implementing this new presentation here would be relatively easy in the software system, right? Because everybody's already set up on a path, and it would just be.
It's certainly going to be a lot easier than the 5-7 days. That was going to be a nightmare for us to figure out the software. This would not be it.
I would make a motion that we delay moving forward with our original vote to restrict the seniors to a certain time on Sundays until we know what we're going to go forward with for sure at our April 18th meeting.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That would complete the agenda. If I have a motion for adjournment, I would entertain it.
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
Always the popular.
Yeah.
Motion has been made. All in favor? Aye. See you on the 18th, Jesse.
See you guys. Take care. Bye.
Nice to meet you. In person.
Wednesday, one.
Yeah, good to see you. Normally though, you're a lot bigger. I gotta be honest.
Exactly, the possible way.
So it's like,
How was your average spy class?
didn't get to play Squad Cats, played Bighorn.
Big one, okay.
Yeah, played Bighorn.